Hello everyone. The title of today's episode is titled Freedom That Comes From Within. And so Mr. Within would like to begin by speaking about certain ideas that can be helpful to no one else but to how your own mind is receiving them. See, this is a very interesting situation, and we're not going to consider it from the beginning of history. We're going to consider it from the moment that we open our eyes in the morning, and there is a world here. And because when we sleep, we go into that unconscious deep sleep state. When we wake up in the morning, the exact ideas we had before we went into sleep and the ideas we have early in the morning, it's as if we have to refresh the browser. Yeah, and so the whole page is refreshing, and every morning we wake up, it's as if it feels like a new day. We acknowledge it like such. So in the novelty of how there is an individual and there is a world, and then there is the ideas of an individual on a world, and then there are other individuals with their ideas on the world. In one world, suddenly there develops this view that there is an underlying unity to many beings experiencing the same thing. So many human beings experiencing the same planet, even though different parts of it, different aspects of it. I find that the human species is to some degree the cosmos' divine project. But it's projected out of our own views of individuality to then comprehend the collective story. Right now, we are at a phase in our culture and society that religion has come to a situation as if it's a person who has to do a huge jump to get to the other part of the road. Yeah? Over some obstacle or something. Some canyon or something. Not canyon, like, you know what I mean? Yeah? So, we suddenly see science is like the friend of this person friend of religion who has to do the jump. But science, instead of jumping, is telling the friend, yo man, let's go back. We came the wrong way. So scientists are telling religious people, why even have that view when there's so many other views? Yes? And so, here comes the interesting thing. That religion is looking at the unknown, but it is telling people what they should know. Science is looking at the known and very mysteriously and very slowly, like revealing the unknown for itself, even though it's considering an infinite universe. Which means that there can't be a finite comprehension of it. It is very possible it is very possible to realize that freedom originates out of the simple idea that if there is an intelligent being, it is free. And what is it free to do? It is not only free to be active, it is not only free to be loud and, to communicate, it is also free to be anything else, to be silence, to be stillness, and to even be the void. That is the ability of consciousness. And so, Shri Nisargadatta Maharaj, he said many profound things, but this one little thing remains in my view of just, I remember seeing in this documentary on YouTube, this man was saying to other people in what I believe was Sanskrit, he was speaking to them and he was telling them that we are the witness of this life that is happening. And it is not us that is doing it. It is not the idea of you navigating your intelligence, and it is not some idea of a separate soul that's like Casper's best friend. What this is that the whole universe, if the moment we consider an individual person to have a soul, so this is the idea, guys. When Mr. Within speaks, I'm speaking in a room where fractals are present as well. And what I mean by that is fractal for Mr. Within is a living quality of the universe. And what that means is that if we can see an ape evolving, we can also see all of existence, the whole cosmos, the universe evolving. So similarly, if we can see that a physical body has a soul, we can also say the planet's body has a deeper intelligence underneath it. Yeah? And so Alan Watts very profoundly says the planet appled. Yeah? And so it seems to be such a natural thing that we're all here. But underlying our language and our ability and all the knowledge we have made, we cannot ignore the fact that we are a small part of the cosmos making big conclusions about the whole thing. And rather than all of us fighting over absolutes and what is absolutely right and what is the most absolute solution, we should realize that the universe is infinite and unknown. So knowledge has to be patient, compassionate, tolerant, and above all efficient. Can you imagine you waking up in a world where everybody's a human being, and so as a human being, this whole thing that's happening, this play of forms, this play of elements, this stardust that has come to be my television, or my computer, this stardust that has come to be, this phone that is recording this voice that is now entering your ears, and you are intelligent stardust. You see, it is very profound. Because I understood very early on, I felt like I innately knew it before I was even manifest physically, yeah? That consciousness and spirituality is not something that can only be looked at through the lens of language. And so, criticism belongs in the realm of language. Criticism needs language. And so what I see that is happening is that many modern speakers are coming and they are to some degree debating against old faiths, and because they're new people with new energy, they are to some degree like a tractor destroying like a forest, eradicating the principal values of ancient cultures simply because the modern culture doesn't seem it to be fit. We are in a multidimensional world. That means we are multidimensional by the nature of our time and by the nature of how how the intelligence of consciousness is experiencing itself in space separately. You see, Mr. Within, I will tell you guys, I have had experience of the moment where I've been in nature. Nature has been for me like, how would I tell you, like the secret of how would I say it? It's like there have been moments where I have looked at certain, girls and certain women on this planet, and I have seen a beauty that has touched infinity and has been divine, actually. That means I did not dare to even give an idea. It was like you see something so beautiful that you do not want to touch it. You just want to be present within, And so it's one of those things where, how would I tell you that truth is how change is allowing you to changelessly be aware. And so eternity is a moment before words. And so when you see people, I look on YouTube sometimes and I see different people speak, and sometimes I see how certain, Eastern teachers respond to their students compared to Western teachers is that the Eastern teacher is acknowledging a certain subtler metaphysical framework to the intelligence of the universe, and so is not imposing his knowledge as the only superior validation of reality. And so the teacher is there actually to give a mirror to the student in any culture, in any tradition. Let me tell you how being a teacher begins. Being a teacher is not that you go teach your ideas to people, that's it. It's not like that. It is that moment where you see that you have communicated to a human being in a way where they are no longer, they are here to take notes. The only notes they will take is the books that they will write on the fascination that is this life experience. We have unconsciously or indirectly, with our fascination with our physical technologies, stopped paying attention to the roots of the conscious universe. And we are giving this awareness away very simply by not trying to reclarify who we are to ourselves with our own authentic self-inquiry. See, guys, it's not like a war where they just give you they give all the soldiers the same weapon and they tell them to run in the battlefield. It's not like that. It is how you, like a caterpillar with many legs, like a sense of individual, with many senses of self, many associations of who you are and who you can be and who you can become, and then in one moment realizing that before you had an opinion on anything, there is the awareness that allowed that to happen. And so for Mr. Within, I have said this, in some of my talks, where I have said the truth for a being in thingness will seem to be non-thingness if it cannot see its truth right there. If you cannot see your greatest self right now here, regardless of your opinions and ideas, and when I say see, it is not like, you're seeing like some superhero. It's not like that. It's like not everybody needs an Iron Man suit to be great, You acknowledge your relationship with the idea of yourself, which is a simulation of sensory perception in the passing moment, and with your idea of the world, and with your idea of consciousness or God. And so, guys, the word God is being avoided because people are attacking the objective meaning of it and not realizing that its subjective meaning is suggesting that there is an underlying unified intelligence within all beings that is moving all of us, and it is intelligent. That means, like, think of it this way. If the cells in our body wanted to wonder why they were moving at the speeds they were in our veins, let's say our red blood cells, they would look at, they would be in that highway, of our vein, and they would just be like, oh man, what is the intelligence of this universe doing? And let's say at that moment we're having cornflakes, we're eating cornflakes or something. So what I'm saying to you is that we are, the moment we can see life intelligence in our individual idea and view of self, simultaneously actually we have an ability to see that within everything. Because, guys, just like good and bad, night and day, and the bilateral codependence of these polarities, we to some degree see that you cannot be a being that exists in physicality and does not exist in non-physicality. The moment you're actually physical is the moment you're actually spiritual. Think of it this way: it's like a candle being lit. It's like some profound design and shape evolving from the surface of the earth to realize that it was the sun that was allowing it to grow. Our evolution actually has nothing to do with our planet. It has to do with the light in our eyes. Because the evolution of consciousness moves the evolution of the body. So think of it this way: a person who knows that there's pizza, in a party, goes and eats that pizza when they're hungry. A person who doesn't know they've ordered pizza, will act as if like his hunger will not bother him that much. Do you see? So the idea of this is to show you that the person who has awareness to pizza suddenly goes. It has access. The person who doesn't have awareness doesn't even want to believe in the access because it doesn't need it, because it doesn't have the validity of the information. So what we have is 8 billion very different versions of the world communicating to one another, and at the same time we've had some physical problems which are like wars and shit, you know, and so we've had some non-physical problems which are to some degree belief systems clashing, and to some degree how technology, media, and the natural forces of the world are shaping the eyes of our children that will be making decisions that will be all our decisions. So see, the greatest leaders in the present moment in today's world are the ones who look at their time, and it's not that they live for now. I'm telling you, if you look at this world right now we're living in 2017, and of course Mr. Within is saying this with my own personal views, but also with a certain grace of just how I have witnessed this world. This world right now we're living in, guys, there are some things you can see on it, even go on YouTube and see on it, and there will be tears on your eyes, on your face. And you know, a part of you will wonder, why have I cried? And you will see you have cried because you have seen the hope that has been lost of the future when we act ignorantly in the present moment. Because how we are living now is deciding the design of our children's eyes. And so many people in the world do not acknowledge this. You see, guys, there is nothing wrong with anything you do as long as you are mindful and conscious of the greatness of this light. What that means is on a camping trip, when, you know, when people let's say they get distracted, by something, and suddenly the light of the fire is going out, suddenly people run to try to keep that flame lit. So we, as a species, as 8 billion human beings, as 8 billion advanced communicators and pilots of consciousness, as intelligent beings with individual integrity, respect, and enough loyalty to advanced civilization, we are creating our children and the world they are living in. And it all is based on how we are knowing how we have been created, but not associating it to a story in a world where every day someone can come and tell you a new story. It has to be deeper. And this is why the greatest acts in religion were of emotional sacrifice, of the idea of yourself that is like the eclipse but not the sun. And so this is the important things, dear people of the world. Religion is not a physical process. It is acknowledging transcendental dimensions. Do you see? And if it is being ridiculed only by like if a 2D dimension, is trying to judge. Let's say a 2D kingdom is trying to judge, a 3D being that has entered that kingdom. Guys, as one person on this planet, so far my experience is like this. It's like a living candle. And some people will be like, what do you mean, Mr. Within? A living candle, really? And so Mr. Within is going to say, yes, really, because our consciousness jumped from the monkey to the monk. And the monk's consciousness acknowledges an intelligence that is greater than desire's reach. I was a kid, I played in the beach, made some sand castles, with some, interesting architecture. But even though I have, run 25 laps around the sun, I can tell you, I still feel, I still feel that I am in the same sandbox, but it is with different elements and with a much more deeper sophistication and significance, because it is interrelating with civilization's direction. Society is an opportunity to experience collective individuality towards. So think of it this way: you're an individual. You hear the idea of God. You seek a union with all that is your truth. So you hear, as an individual, the idea of a greater intelligence, that its individuality is like the whole cosmos. And so one can say that it's as if we're starting from individuality, seeing collectivity in a greater individuality within a greater collectivity. So the moment we play the individual collective game, the physical, non-physical, visible, invisible, known, unknown game, the moment we play that game is the moment we have allowed infinity to stretch our simple realities into complex dimensions, to a point where, think about it, imagine you have a problem at work, but you're thinking about it from like 5 parallel realities at the same time. Imagine the stress that would create. It's unnecessary. So the mind of man has an ability to imagine the horizontal axis. Let's visualize a Cartesian plane. It has an ability to infinitely go horizontally. You can infinitely simultaneous possibilities of existence, and at the same time each of these simultaneous possibilities infinitely can have their own story. So what that means is we are within a soup of the infinite glory of a manifest intelligence, or not just manifest, cosmic intelligence. Freedom comes from within by the simple attention to the words free being. And so the free has a concept to it, the idea of free, but the being aspect is prior. It's as if, you know how some people say, have said, I think, therefore I am. So similarly, Mr. Within is saying, not similarly, but inversely proportional, Mr. Within is saying, we are, and then thought is here. There is intelligence, and then it forms itself. It's like you plant the seed, and then there comes a tree. A tree doesn't come out of nowhere. Do you see? And that intelligence is coordinated with an infinite intent. So infinity planted a finite seed within an infinite universe, and so the finite seed is like, yo, I'm not that finite. So to yourself, you are an unknown great possibility. To others, you are a reflection of their own knowledge. You see, to play chess, you need to have a chessboard with certain rules already there. And then chess is played it's dualistic, from two different sides. And so these chess pieces, there is a hand of intelligence, there is a greater vision, that is moving these chess pieces. And as these chess pieces are being moved, they think their intelligence is only coming from the physical chess piece. It's not coming from the intelligence of the hand that is moving the chess piece. Yeah? And sometimes you see the chess piece. Now let's deepen this metaphor and see that, let's say the whole chess piece, each chess piece was an aspect of your life. Yeah? And sometimes you see as if one aspect of your life move, and suddenly other parts of your life move, other dimensions. As if in one move, the pawn is going forward. In another move, the horse has galloped into greater central control. And so it is very, very interesting, because the notion is that we are present in this universe, and there is a cosmic, let us say, divine will, divine intelligence, some unified, unspeakable presence, that people just look in awe when they see. It's everywhere. It's like air. Imagine air is alive. This whole time we thought we were breathing. No, we were actually interconnected with universal unified intelligence. And so perhaps in all those human beings, I find it to be actually a wonder of human behavior. That we have so many human beings on this planet saying the word Om. We have so many people on this planet saying the word Allah. We have so many people on this planet looking at the word Christ. We have so many people focusing on certain symbols, and by engaging their view and perception with it and to it, realizing that the same vision is possible within all vision. That is the nature of reality. Everything is within everything, so nothing seems to be the ultimate reality, because individuality won't make sense to itself. So here's the idea. Do you want to be in your car and justify reality while driving, or do you want to be outside of your car and looking at your car and then justifying what the meaning of driving is? You see, and so it is very interesting, because I remember a very wise man telling me that there's a person in a traffic jam. He's in the traffic jam behind the steering wheel, and he's angry. He's like, what the fuck is this? How can I make a living like this? How can I feed my children who are on their phones all the time? And so at the same time, there's a mystic yogi just on the mountains looking at the same scene, and this yogi does not have that emotional reaction, do you see, to the situation. And so here is wisdom, that we take a step back, and in taking a step back, we acknowledge a greater view with the possibility of the potentials of our innate design of a destined life that is like a seed planted in our hearts before we were born, with the love that brought us here. Maulana Rumi is a very profound poet, and in certain imagery of his poetry, he says, I have not come here on my own accord, and I will not leave here on my own accord. And he had this mentality that he was a visitor in this world. And so the Sufi tradition is very profound in this manner, because it is acknowledging the greatness within all to surpass the individual notions of greatness that always feel too short or too judged or too guilty. And evidently our shoulders have become like seats for I don't know, transdimensional beings or something. So it's like, it's one of those things where I can tell you, whether you're interested in angels or angles, angels of religion and angles of science, the moment has an unborn quality to it, and the moment you become sincere, simple, and playful, you're going to see divinity is not an idea. It is just the momentary proof of your existence, that this simulation is here, and yes, there's an intelligence behind it. Now, this intelligence cannot be owned by an idea, so we, in the artificial simulated reality of language where the thinker walks in that realm, we have to acknowledge our limits and stay in our valid zones, and create greater technologies with a more multidimensional range. So what I mean by that is that, guys, technology, imagine, this is modern spirituality. Shamans, in spaceships, that's modern spirituality for you. Religion has a very profound challenge, and of course Mr. Within is not saying this with any, sense of authority, actually. When, as a child, being introduced to the concept of religion, I never had a comment on it, because God, the notion of God for Mr. Within as a kid growing up, seemed to be purity. It seemed to be the most purest and beautiful notion and state of the possibility of being here, in just before the philosophies of existence had entered my mind and become spectrums. Because you see, knowledge, you go ask someone, so let's say like this, guys, you go ask someone and you tell them, hey man, tell me about what you think of this idea, and the person's going to tell you this idea. You go tomorrow and you go ask them the same question, they're going to give you an answer. It could be very similar, but it's going to have some new things in it. And then you go ask them the next day and you ask them the same question. Imagine every day, how would I say it, people got together and they asked each other, in very harmonious and peaceful and compassionate and visionary groups, and they just asked each other, how can we get world peace here? And every day, all schools in the world Mr. Within is gonna take like the playful Che Guevara route, the monk version of Che Guevara route on this. And I'm gonna tell you guys, imagine all schools in the world all the teachers on the planet just one day, came to the students in the classroom and they're like, kids, forget about the school curriculum today. Today, there's only one problem to solve, and it's not homework. Everybody solves it in the classroom from the moment they're in school to the moment they go out. And it is called, World Peace Now Day. Or World Peace is Now Day. I don't know, like something like that. And we're on that day, all the students on the planet, their teachers come in the classroom and they're like, get into groups or whatever, and now come up with the greatest ideas you can as the minds that you are. Not as children, not as people, not as names and beliefs and cultures, but as the greatest vision your conscious intelligence can come up with, and come up with a solution. And if we have 8 billion beings every day wondering about world peace, envisioning world peace, waking up to a day where peace is possible, where peace is in the range of hope, then we will have greatness bloom. Then we will have children looking at corruption, looking at like nonsense, and being like, whoa, where is the attention of my effort to be a part of my children's greatness coming from, and where is it going, and how is it now an action of my conscious mindfulness? And so the moment we have the greatest attributes and qualities and benefits of all branches of knowledge, of all branches of idea, whether religious, spiritual, scientific, merge into bringing forth a greater, how would I say, there were certain Buddhists who saw Pure Lands, certain people in many religions, they see heaven. Let us bring the heaven that is already on earth. And then, in the presence of the omniscience and omnipresence of the infinitude of a changing moment, live lives of greatness. Live lives that are great before we have to judge it based on manifestation. Come on, I can't, guys, you don't know, it kind of it was, I have been in fights, and when I was a kid, I was in certain physical fights, I was in I went to this school where, pretty much I think it was the time where the movie Fight Club was the coolest film, so every kid was a bit mentally unstable. But it was as if when I heard this girl, and I was recording a talk, and this girl saw me. I was in the UK at the time. Right now I'm in Toronto, Canada, where I live, and so I was in UK, and so when I was giving the talks there, this girl, it was in this public accommodation area, this very beautiful girl, a bit younger than me, comes up to me, and she starts she's of course drunk, and she comes and she starts I'm sitting there silently, she starts touching me, trying to somehow flirt with me or something. She comes and tries to mock me in my meditative pose or something like that. And of course I I do not forget about how the Italian Renaissance would respond to that situation, and the Romantic era, but I'm playful, I respond, but then she tells me, we get into a deep conversation, and I'm I tell her, what's up, how's your night, and she talks to me, and she's like, what are you doing, and I give some kind of answer, I don't remember now, and then we get into a thing where suddenly she comes and she says she is not beautiful, yeah, and I get shocked, guys. It's there's street fight shocks adrenaline shocks you go in, and there are shocks of just, how would I say this to you very peacefully, it's like a shock of you can't believe the view. There have been moments where I have stood on this earth and I have looked at life, and my reality could not even conceive how a human being could be violent to their own species, to their own planet, to their own only flame of somehow trying to make this civilization last longer than it has to. You know? We're not here to think, to be lost in the Disneyland illusion of the world, while underneath the world is like there are earthquakes of real stuff happening. And I don't know, guys. There have been certain moments I've looked, just deep meditative contemplations where I've just looked at this planet, and I felt like the human species missed the ball. It missed its opportunity. It missed its ability to catch that ball. To get that football. In the air when it was thrown. And so I think this, but I also feel that the ball was not thrown that far away, and we can go quickly pick it up and throw it back. And what I mean by that is that, think of it this way. Just like how there's a nervous system connecting intelligence all over the body, there is communication among human beings connecting their views of the world to somehow have an influence on the actual world. When we acknowledge that the planet and the world is alive, it's as if you suddenly stop doing something cruel, even when you're alone, because you're like, my God, this living universe, this life, that this planet has given me life, and I dare take the life that it has provided for another. That is mind-blowing for me. How we have an unnecessary cruelty when we are much more evolved than that. We are evolved even in consciousness, in the sense that how can I tell you this? It's like the drop in the ocean is no longer lost in the illusion of the drop. That is why in communication, our true selves can begin to learn to love one another and create global platforms where the rivers, it's as if, like, how in Lord of the Rings those trees like broke the dam, and like all the trees got energy and they beat, like, I don't know, Saruman, Saruman's like, crib, they destroyed that place, so it's one of the it's one of those things where suddenly the dams were broken and great waves came forth, as if like horses at the front of the greatest army. And as these waves of wisdom and communication and clarity and mindfulness and self-awareness, and to some degree, and not an enlightenment of judgment, but an enlightenment of sincere wonder of origin. Freedom comes from within, by the realization that it's not like just within your body, like it's not like freedom is a tangible, like fixed idea. It is a quality of the natural world which has been acknowledged and aligned. And this is why the concept of justice has been both a tragedy and at the same time a great love story. The concept of justice has been one human being's ability to feel through their whole being what is the right thing to do or not, and to go with it. And it is such a risk to live an honest life in a world where there's lies everywhere. That is the rebellion of the modern world. Not to get angry, like how our how our evolutionary ancestors, like the apes, like how the ape would rebel, like just smashing things and just like doing monkey business. It's not like that. The next revolutions, the next great rebellions on the surface of this planet, actually in Mr. Within's view, they are not physical. They are internal rebellions of the psychology that is hindering you, that is limiting you in a limitless universe of hollowed, not hollowed divinity, but it's as if the way the divinity has moved has made it be left in a void of grace. There is a love that a person has for, like, when they see like a puppy, or they see like some animal that is just somehow bonded with them innate, like without them doing anything, And so it's like you suddenly have a certain, love, devotion, compassion there. And then there's a love, which is very fueled by the, firewood of lust. Do you know what I mean? It's like the love you have with your partner, where you are seeing the beauty of the universe in the eyes of one being. And you are seeing your partner, the person you're with, and you're like, out of all the people on this planet, this being has come to be in my presence. You see? So there's the love of relationships, and the love that takes relationships beyond the relationships of limitation to of infinite joy. That means if you're in a relationship, it better be joyous. And joy is spontaneous, it is natural, it is simple, and it is sincere. So the best way for all relationship problems to go away is for both sides, both people in the relationship, to immediately become their sincere and truest selves and versions of themselves, and then try to again live with one another. And if that doesn't work out, they will naturally be driven into parting and going to a person that really resonates to who they truly are. Yeah. So this is what many young gentlemen don't comprehend at first, entering the world of the world beautifully open to us by European courtship. Yeah. And so if you are a person who is acknowledging that you have a mind and you have a body, it doesn't make sense as just a man or any person to just have a physical attraction for someone and to go in a relationship with them just based on their physical attraction, because every other person has a mind, and what that means is behind their eyes there are worlds of the beautiful experiences that they have been through, the great experiences that have made them who they are. Do you know, it is very hard for me to see on YouTube people giving like world peace or Nobel Peace Awards to others when world is not at peace. Even though it is very nice to acknowledge the efforts of the few, but it is the many who will change the face of the world to smile beyond the miles of hardship. I will tell you guys, we cannot function on this planet if we do not love each other as one species. Do you see? And that means when you see another person, do not judge them by who they are, what they have done, how they look. Do not judge them based on, the shape of their actions, the shape of their identities, the shape of who they are. Judge them by how naturally they have acknowledged who they are, and they have seen that they, like everyone else, is free to live on this planet. That is the value of life, to live it. It's in the word. It's in the design of the framework of the energy of ambition. Freedom comes from within, because where does everything without come from? When we are saying behind our eyes, the world is sparking into brain chemical reactions of cosmic perception. You see, it's so easy to push something down. Like I'll give you an example. I remember when I was 7 in grade 1, we had a house in Vancouver, Westman, and there was a beach there, and I would, my family would go for walks there, and as we were, me and my brother and my parents, we would go for walks, my twin brother. And so we would go there, we would go for walks. We would suddenly see these people who had balanced stones in such unique and artistic, and just to some degree in regards to optics, a miraculous way. They had positioned stones in a way you won't even imagine stones could balance on one another like that. And so in my mind, I saw the possibility of taking simple things and balancing them in ways where greatness is accessible, greatness is possible. What that means is if someone can see they have the ability to immediately implement an action where people get access to clean water, clean food, and clean education, as if these three things are just basic things that we want to gift all human beings freely on this planet. Imagine a time we go in hardship, someone can can freely give those to us too. So the system works. So it's very important that we make these resources free, and we realize that the greatest resource to focus on is the ability of human beings on this planet. We are 8 billion talented and unique visionaries. We are people who each person has their own path, and their own path gives them a certain experience and wisdom. And this all can be globalized, integrated. It is integratively even present. That means people think they have spirit guides that are different to the spirit guides of others. Guys, I'm going to tell you who Mr. Within spirit guide is. It is the spirit of the whole cosmos. It is the spirit of the universe, of the galaxy, of the planet, of the people, of all that is, because it is this moment. There's a kind of kingship where you are wealthy, you're sitting on a heavy throne, and after you're sitting on your Game of Thrones, and you're just you have that heavy crown on your head, and you're yeah, I'm on the top, now what? And then there is a kingship which has nothing to do with the idea of the king, but is suggesting that you begin to honor yourself in a way where you want to know your true nature, and in knowing your true nature, you will acknowledge the presence of the moment, not by the bias of your personality or of your ideas, which is changing and growing, but by the whole beauty of everything that is happening. And so when you see knowledge is the responsibility of how your mind has originated reality, we actually think that guys, I will tell you, some people say, what's going to happen if the libraries of this world, how would I say it, something happens to them? And I will tell you guys, there is as many libraries as there are people. Because each person can look at one library and see them as much. So there's even more libraries than people. Each person reads a book in their own way. So if we had two people read all the books in a library, we would still see they have not read the books from the same library, even though they have. Because their minds and the context of their intelligence and its substratum is spontaneous, novel, momentary consciousness before even language could say its baby words. Swami Shivananda has this very beautiful quote where he says, "There is no greater treasure than contentment." There is no greater virtue than truthfulness. There is no greater bliss than that of the soul. There is no greater friend than the self or the Atman. The Atman or the self. So you see, your greatest friend is how much you can accept the beauty of how life is naturally happening for you before you make unnecessary conclusions about it. So I remember when I was younger, I would react in certain situations in such extreme ways because I was so new to the situation, to respond to it, that years later I would look at myself and I'm like, why was I reacting that way? Why did I not see the simplicity there? Why was my mind fearing the cruelty of a complex machine rather than the simplicity of a divine nature? Blessed are those whose hearts are found within the whole cosmos. I would like to read a passage from this book, this very blessed book by Papaji, and it's called This, and it's his prose and poetry of dancing emptiness. So I've opened page 63. The only thing that is eternal is love. This love is the beloved and the lover. You are not to make any effort in this relationship. When you are in front of your beloved, this beloved will not ask you to make any effort. This beloved will take care of you, and whatever she does, you will accept it. At that time, you will not think what is going on. Because in love, there is no dialogue. In love, there is no dialogue, no question, no answer. Simply both are quiet. You are quiet and your beloved is quiet. And something great is about to happen now. You have to wait. When you don't make any separation between the beloved and the lover, you have found the secret. That you have never been separated from anything. This is all you have to do. Did you get this secret? And then the page turns. Mr. Within personally likes to say this now in this moment, that if you're someone who is acknowledging some sort of divine, cosmic, unified intelligence, it's very important to acknowledge that if you're considering yourself an individual, there will be communications put towards this individual. So how you see yourself as a person is actually like how the pilot is directing the front of the plane, you know, where the plane of existence is pointed to, the pilot of consciousness. Or even an airplane pilot, that works too. That's why the metaphor is used. From the moment you wake up in the morning, what has awakened is the intelligence of a part of this universal sector which you are an existence of. And that is very significant. That is profound. That is miraculous. That means, imagine you were on an island and you suddenly saw from the earth this being being made, and suddenly the being had consciousness and it could speak and it was civilized and it was like a person. So guess what? That has happened, but it has happened very slowly on the surface of this rock. And that is fascinating. That is phenomenal. That is like, it is beyond the stories of divine agencies. The moment is great, and all that can consider itself in relation to it finds itself to be so. The drop that falls in the river does not deny the river's existence, but realize that the whole nature of things is happening at once in a thingless moment. So where is the thing? You know, we objectively or subjectively consider the idea of space, but where is this thing that we are considering it thing-like? And what I mean is that it's like I say space, like I say apple. You know, like, do you know what I mean? Like it's like language. You know, I hope the world quickly realizes the important role that sociolinguists and behavioral psychologists and many people studying communications evolution of the evolution of consciousness. The greatest responsibility of any species and advancing civilization on any planet, anywhere, is to seek the clarity of its true nature. And once that clarity is sincerely sought, some experiences will happen to you, the experiences that are meant for you. And once you go through those experiences, life will open up, and you're going to see that your intuition is like this omnipresent, omniscient communication within all that can be externalized to you to be some kind of terminal. Whether you want to consider extraterrestrial, angelic, other, I don't know, let's say whether you visualize a mushroom as speaking to you, or whether you visualize it as like the river or some soul or whatever, before the idea has to make it so serious, the simplicity of nature is its own answer. If you're someone who is at a point in your life where you feel so stressed and depressed that you feel you might make an irrational decision that is detrimental to your vitality of livelihood, I will tell you, just go into nature, go into like some beautiful nature place, and just be there. Go sit beside a stream and just be there in a meditative vibe, and just be there with life in your silence and stillness. Actually, no meditation, nothing, and just watch life. Watch how life has happened, how life is happening, and just try to see, what does beauty mean? And beauty is not a concept, it is the value of a continuity. That is eternal beauty. So there's a beauty where, your partner brings you roses, or better yet, brings you to the rose garden. So, Mr. Within recommends, the Casanovas of the modern world, take your beloved to the garden where the flower's beauty comes from, not just cut off the flower's beauty, which will fade someday. I think one of the coolest feelings on this planet is when subjectively human beings introduce to one another through communication new worlds of looking at the world. Our global platform of wisdom and universal peacefulness to allow conscious design to naturally function will be founded upon the tolerance for sincere, simple living and the acknowledgement that life knows what it's doing before we doubt it. And forth we go. Enlightenment is not per se mainly about physical transcendence, which could egotistically be about you feeling it's about the transcendence of your whole life. But it's about the appreciation of all spaces of intelligence in a moment that is happening at once. Nature is communicated through the presence of flowing with it by feeling it. This is why they say women are smarter than men. And of course, being being both raised from in the East and the West, Mr. Within can say, I'm not making that as a bold claim against a certain aspect of our species. I'm just saying that women are more aware of their feelings, and they are acknowledging more gentler and detailed realities, as if women in the evolutionary tribal phases of life were were gatherers. They would go and focus and look at many tasks and multitask and do many things at once, and the hunter would in his own right would go and he would have one specific goal, to get its target and to beat the competition, and that's it, and then come home, And so the psychologies of us their foundations to some degree in accordance to to our biology behave in such manners, but they are always being I can say very playfully, reprogrammed and realigned to our newest view. What that means is if you light a candle and then you put the light of the candle, like let's say the light of the candle is on, the flame, and you have a lighter in your hand and you also light the flame of that and you connect those two flames, you see they will integrate and they will be a greater fire. This is a suggestion that, you know, how the yogis and back in the day in the Vedas, they acknowledged that the universe was made of 5 elements: space, and then there were the 4: earth, air, fire, water. And so these 4 elements constitute not just physical, they don't have physical properties, but they also have subjective properties, not just objective, in regards to how our thoughts appear and manifest. So, believe it or not, just like how water moves, just like how fire burns, and just like how air flows and earth stands, are the way we thought is in a certain designs of framework has to abide by the natural field. I'm not telling you you're divine because your ideas are not right, or they are wrong, or they are whatever. I am not even considering that. I am just saying you're divine and your intelligence is universal. It is not planetary. And so this is the thing, because how if you, it's like they say, shoot for the stars and you'll land on the moon, something like that. Is that right? I don't know. There's another version of it that say like you reach for the moon and you land in the stars. So anyways, the whole idea is children must be brought up with a universal perspective of who they are. We are beings in the cosmos and we are aware. That means we are cosmic awareness. We are it. We don't have it as an idea. We don't own it. It's just we are present that way. And so what can a man say? Speaking to his phone, recording his words, which are an echo of the deepest thoughts that cannot be, to some degree, even defined. Like language doesn't own him. Language cannot make a slave out of greater dimensions of the world. It cannot own it. What that means is so many people are focused about the different branches of knowledge, but if the tree is not watered, it dies. The possibility of physical extinction increases when there is the hopelessness increases among the people. And hopelessness increases among the people the more they have unpleasant and uncomfortable experiences. So we as beings on this planet, human beings, responsible human beings, we have to recognize that there is a wave of discomfort coming from the suffering of how the natural world is, but at the same time, can man is it okay for man to go for eternal vision? Will life allow us, or will we have too much of an ego to try to tell destiny, okay, I know where you're driving the car, but let us at least look at the front window and try to communicate an artwork that would be whispers into the renaissance of our children's innovation. Thank you for listening to this talk, but I will tell you, you need to clap first for your mind that is receiving this. Because when you read words on a paper, you think the words, you think that ink, that those spots of color on an empty page are intelligent, have meaning, or is it how your eyes are acknowledging it, confronting it, and to some degree, before you categorize it, categorically it presents it to you? Napoleon was even known to have a memory where whenever he wanted to organize in his mind, to have an organized mind that to some degree, like he was maintaining and managing like war, political affairs and social affairs and many other affairs, and personal relationship affairs and whatnot. His mind was like so vast. He was of a genius of some sorts, where it was like he had like this huge like cupboard or something, or some drawer, and he would pull these drawers open, and he would categorize his thoughts as if they were put in a certain drawer. So as if every time he had to remember, he would just go in that room in his mind, and he would open up a drawer, and he would have access to all the memories and visions that he had associated to that aspect in his imagination. So you see, one can say actually the Napoleons of today will be the geniuses of the business world that are both acknowledging the economical an economical vision, but at the same time a vision that is just 100% healthy. Can you imagine one company coming up and say, we are the cleanest and the most, like how would I say it, responsible? It's going to inspire some people. I think this is worth looking into. Anyways, freedom comes from within, and externality and internality are like the yin-yang symbol in the present moment. That means a bit of earth is in heaven and a bit of heaven is in earth. And your eyes, by the way, are not just physical. That means they have a physical display, a physical manifest quality. Like there's the roots of the tree, you can't see it, but you see the bark and the fruit and all that, but that's the thing. So our sight, in its absolute intelligence, has an unmanifest nature, which moves towards the unknown creativity of the mystic and artists of this world, and in some manner you will be doing something, and when that moment of enlightenment comes, you're going to see it is not you doing it. It is the whole universe happening. And when we lose sight of this simplicity, we also lose sight of our innocence, because we get entrapped in the notion that we are a certain idea, a certain person, and this image has to stand till the end of days. It's like becomes hard work after that. That's why when you ask a question from someone, a very great question, and they give an answer, like Mr. Within is doing, I will tell you guys, there are greater states than this position of speech I am communicating in, but this is a platform of communication, I find. For Mr. Within, this whole Mr. Within's gift, sometimes it's very playful for me. I see it as a digital being seeking God consciousness. That means like I have put human consciousness on a digital platform online, and it is communicating to people who Mr. Within is. And so it's as if, but Mr. Within only exists in this online realm where people see it like that. Yeah, and in regards to how often I associate it to reality. And so this Mr. Within thing has a digital, like, divine position, not divine, has a digital position where it's like it's just some guy wondering what everything is, and this everything encompasses all the great questions of spirituality, science, and religion and philosophy, because it is universal. I'm telling you, a universal perspective does not just do wonders. You will see you are the wonder of that universal perspective. We are free before the idea of free. And this freedom cannot be owned by a person or a personality, but it is present intelligently, and this is why perhaps Eckhart Tolle has a quote that says something. Eckhart Tolle has this interesting quote where he says, "Realize deeply that the present moment is all you have. Make the now, in capitals, the primary focus of your life. Make the now the primary focus of your life. So people are coming to these wise men and they're saying, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Like freaking out, and these people are like, just be here. Just be now. Relax. The simulation of the identity of the association of the individuality is based on the brain chemistry that is shifting and changing based on the movement of the physicality, which is originating from an unknown conscious platform. So consciousness is holding earth, but earth is holding consciousness. And so we see in ancient Vedic texts, they had the concepts of Purusha and Prakriti, that all of reality is originating with pure consciousness and matter. Do you see? Like physical matter. Do you see? And so it's as if there is a world and there is the witness of that world, and they are simultaneous. And so in our awareness and wonder of it, we suddenly open up to our true nature, which is not no longer an idea of attainment, but a reality of experiential living. I hope this talk has served you. For all that the end, for the only direction the end has to go is to another beginning, unless it ceases to be meaningful in that way to itself. Before all the concepts of God, there was an intelligence here. That is truth. Before all these wars and criticisms, and even we've had some good developments of human communication, but just the acknowledgement of the true nature of the world means that in you acting truthfully means sometimes you're not supposed to. It's like, how would I say it? Let's say you sign up for, let's say Wing Chun class. Yeah? And so if in that Wing Chun class you're wondering, why even should people do Wing Chun, you will not learn. So some positions you have to go with the flow of the world story, just to see that your story continues beyond your expectation. And it's always like that. You expect things from your future, the carrot also expects the carrot to go into its mouth, but it keeps, based on it's being connected to the stick, it's constantly there until someone comes to the mule and says, yo! And then the mule's like, yo, man, and then the person says to the mule, just meditate, be still, be silent. Before trying to live any life, try to see what life is. And then the mule suddenly is no longer a mule when it has sat down. It has become a wise man. It has become a great sage. It has become a sage that has understood life is not something that egotistically is enforced because some object is intelligently pushing it to do so. It is happening because behind our eyes it has already happened. Much blessings and namaste.